Okay, thanks for taking the time to join me on the cut through, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Al.
Yeah, no worries at all. So, just so people don't think I've lost my marbles here, you're known to most people who know you as Lanis. So I'm gonna immediately switch to that name if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no problems. I think in a former life, Lanis was maybe my stage name.
Yeah, right.
but
Well,
yeah,
when I heard the name Matt, I was like, "Who's that?"
that happens to
Yeah.
most of my friends. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, now we've known each other for quite a while. You've been part of the Melbourne hospitality scene for many a year now. Can you give us a quick rundown on your background?
Yeah, sure. I guess hospitality has been running through my veins since I was young. My first job, or second job, 14, kitchen hand, and studied it in high school, and then did business, and basically have always had some kind of business since I was 21 in hospitality. I've had 11 startups over my journey of business.
Double digits.
All focused around hospitality, events, marketing, consulting, had a technology company in there, and now I've moved into property.
Okay. Doing a bit of everything there. Good to see.
Yeah, it's all based around marketing strategies and business strategies.
Sure. Now, you started Lucky Penny back in about, I think it was 2014. Can you tell us a bit about tell us a bit about the venue itself, what you guys do there, and how that actually came about?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, it was, I guess, it was a random, look, I'd been looking at the space for a couple of years, and 2 years prior than taking over the lease, I actually put a deposit on the venue with DJ Roy. And we had a function coordinator and a business partner, and at the 11th hour they pulled out on us, and so we had to walk away from it. And then that kind of went out of my head. And then fast forward 2 years, I'm driving down Chapel Street with one of my best mates, Justin, right? And he had a successful cafe in Reservoir, and I wanted to exit the nightclub scene. Mm-hmm. And I just said to him as I was driving down, I'm like, do you think that your chefs and you would be interested in stepping up to, Chapel Street, South Yarra? And he was like, oh, let me check. And then they said yes, and we joined partners, and we did a deal on the space, and basically got it for nothing, which was great because the old business owner had unfortunately failed. And we came in and we gutted the place, and we spent a fair bit of money on a fit out, and turned it into a cafe, all day breakfast, lunch, basically all day brunch, which is Melbourne's favourite, and a function space with some catering as well.
Cool. Now, to get to the elephant in the room, I suppose, COVID-19. Can you remember what your first thoughts were when you realised that COVID-19 might be a bigger deal than what you first thought? And just keep in mind, this is a non-sweary podcast, so.
Yeah, no problems. Yeah, well, I guess the F word did cross my mind a few times as I was watching it spread throughout the world. I guess to preface this, I have a pretty strong interest in global politics and world events and what's happening across the globe. So I was in tune to what was happening from before, from I guess December last year. And I was watching what was happening, and I was getting clips from this country and that country, and I was seeing I guess the devastation it was causing and the unpreparedness that a lot of people were. So I was kind of watching that, and then I heard about our first case in Jan, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's coming here. My interest got even more in depth, and then I guess a couple of weeks before the Grand Prix came to town, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna erupt here. Like, we're bringing in, the Grand Prix is one of the biggest international events in Melbourne. And, it's prime time for hospitality. So I'm always across that time of the year, in whether it was nightclubs or events or, even as a restaurant. So I was like, oh no, I know what's going to happen. They're going to bring COVID here.
Yeah, right.
And then, so I guess a week before the Grand Prix, came up with the concept of, well, basically I was looking at all the other countries that had been locked down, and I was seeing what businesses were allowed to stay open. And it was like, you had to be a necessity. And I'm like, I don't want us to shut down because, you know, my staff will lose their jobs and their livelihoods. And it was all about protecting them rather than my business. It was more about protecting the staff. And so I was like, what can I do that will make sure that I'm not shut down? And the most logical choice for that was a grocery store that provided the necessities. And at the time, if you remember, there was a shortage of toilet paper, there was a shortage of hand sanitizer, you know, things started running out in the supermarket, pasta, and people were, you know, hoarding groceries. So I rang up, I picked up the phone, talked to our suppliers, and I was like, hey, look, you know, if we did this grocery store, you know, would you guys be able to fulfill? And so they all said, all except for one. So 5 out of 6 all said, yeah, we're happy to do it. And then as it happened, the Grand Prix got cancelled. You know, they cancelled large events. And then by the Monday, like basically we had a week of trade, social distancing trade. And then the next week after it was a full lockdown. So we, in that week before the full lockdown, we had done 5,000 letterbox drops in the area with our menu for the grocery store. It was like basically old school, pick up the phone, call, and you can pick up your box on a Sunday. So it's like, instead of going to the market, you could come to us and avoid, socializing at the market. So that was where the concept came. And then when they said that we couldn't keep trading at the limited at capacity, we just basically that Monday night and that Tuesday night, I created an online grocery store over basically 2 17-hour sessions. And then we ran with that, and, pretty much we shut on the Monday. We were back open on the Tuesday, told all the staff, hey, look, this is what's happening. Made them all do the COVID training that was issued by the federal government. On the Saturday previously, I did the World Health Organization COVID training at three units, and I did the federal government COVID infectious control training in COVID-19. And I was like, I'm battling, I basically took on the role as a leader in the community, and I was going to help deliver the message from the government, whatever that was, and try and, stop the spread and be a positive voice on the street in a pretty troubling time.
Melbourne businesses are working hard to change the way they do things in an effort to survive the shutdown. Justine Conway tells us, from cafes to caterers, owners are getting creative to maintain their livelihoods.
Lucky Penny on Chapel Street was once a bustling all-day brunch spot. Determined to stay afloat, the venue's been transformed.
What was Lucky Penny Functions and Cafe is now the Lucky Penny grocery store.
Vegetables, rice, pasta, even toilet paper and hand sanitizer, when they're in stock, are all on the shopping list.
Pre-order your box. 48 hours later, we'll give you a window that you can come and pick up from the window.
It's people like Matt and businesses like this that we need more of to keep the community together.
I guess that leads me to my next question about, being a voice on the street, because obviously at this point, as you mentioned, the Corona thing kicks off, or more to the point, everything locks down. The next thing you know, you managed to get yourself involved in a media storm. So can you fill us in on that one and just what went on there?
Look, I think I'm not sure how it all happened, but it really did just blow up. Like, we were on pretty much we were in every single paper except for The Age, page 3 of The Australian. Like the story of this media journey is quite crazy in itself. But I think how it started was we were probably one of the only businesses still open. And so they were looking the Channel 9 were looking for a story. So they came down and had an interview with me, and then they ran with it. And then the next week, the ABC Business show must have seen that and came down and did a full like story with the Chapel Street precinct. And, you know, and then basically I sit on the board of the Chapel Street precinct, and Chrissy Mouse, she does amazing work with marketing for the Chapel Street precinct, and her role, you know, she's meant to do 40 hours. She probably does 80, and she was getting all these media requests. And so she handballed them to me, and she handballed them to Andrew Zocchi. And so we were kind of like, if the story fit, then they would come. And so we got a couple of those. And then I think I must have done a good interview with someone, and I became like, all right, if you want to get a good comment or you want to get a good interview, go see Matt Lanigan down at Lucky Penny. So, yeah, one thing led to another, and it kind of just turned into, you know, this media thing, and not just here, but like, you know, Chapel Street, you know, it's a credit to Chapel Street Precinct Association, because they stayed true and they stayed positive, and, you know, it encouraged other businesses to start to reopen before, you know, JobKeeper came in, and before, you know, there was a good 5-6 weeks of like, you know, we were like just flying by the seat of our pants going, what can we do? You know, we had community buy-in, the community engagement, you know, it was amazing. The support local movement took off. And I guess everything that we were saying and delivering was hitting the right, you know, the right notes with the community. And it was really just because we were being a positive voice on the street. You know, we had all these locals who were now working from home that we'd never seen before, and they would come up and they would, you know, get their coffee to take away and have a chat for 5 minutes. And it was, you know, like their only bit of socializing, because there's a lot of apartment living around South Yarra. So, you know, they were just grateful to have someone to talk to every day. And so made all these great relationships on the street and in the community. And, you know, I guess they could see that what we were doing was all community based.
Yeah.
You know, the grocery store, it was literally wholesale prices plus 30% to cover wages. That was the model at the start. And that's still what the price is now today. But it was all about keeping these guys in jobs and keeping the community connected. And that's, you know, I sat down with the staff and said, that's our message. And that's what we're going to deliver. And that's why. So
there was a certain section of the community though where you hit the wrong note with, is there not? You could say.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because that's the fun part, really.
Well, it was quite, you know, like reflecting back on it, was quite flattering that they chose to target us. Literally, like we were. So it all started. We did Channel 9 and Channel 10 on the same day. And it was the day that Dan Andrews made a big announcement, and it was going to be like, we were going to reopen. I can't even remember the details, to be honest, specifically, but it was meant to be a really good announcement for us, and it turned out to be bad. So the media were like, that's even better, right? Media loves a bad story. So Channel 10 did an interview in the morning. Channel 9 did an interview straight after. I said he was playing politics with... I said, I think Dan Andrews is playing politics with our livelihoods. They loved that line. Out of, you know, the 10-minute interview that I did, they loved that line. And, you know, it wasn't deliberate, but it was just, you can probably tell by this interview, like, I'm real. I speak how it is. There's no hidden agendas, nothing. And then, yeah, so that happened. And then they said, can we come and do a live cross this afternoon, Channel 9? I was like, yeah, that's great. So Channel 9 came back in the afternoon, prepared for the live cross. Channel 10 came back and did another cut in the afternoon. And then by 4 o'clock, I'm sitting, like, I literally got off a Zoom call with a business client, and then, got off a Zoom call with a business client, walked straight into a live cross on Channel 9. I'm like, all right, what are we doing? And the reporter's sitting there. He's more nervous than me. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great.
Well, many cafe and restaurant owners feel let down by today's announcement. Reid Butler joins me now live from South Yarra. Reid, what's been the reaction?
Alicia, I'm here at a restaurant in South Yarra with the owner of this popular restaurant, Lucky Penny, on Chapel Street, Matt Lanigan. Matt, I'll ask you, what's your reaction to the news this morning?
Thanks, Reid. Yeah, disappointment, obviously. We were quite excited on Friday when the Prime Minister made his announcement. We spent the weekend kind of planning to reopen. So disappointment, I guess.
What was the plan? We just heard the Premier then saying that the main decision, by the sounds of it, was made because he didn't believe it was viable for businesses like yourself. What was the plan, and was it going to be viable?
Sure. I guess, I can kind of see where he's coming from in an essence, but he may have underestimated the hospitality industry because we're quite good at being reactive. Our plan was going to be 10 people for 2-hour sessions doing bottomless brunches. They come in for 90 minutes, have half an hour to sanitise the place, then take the next booking. We could have run that for 10 or 12 hours, Saturday and Sunday. That would have probably doubled our revenue for the week.
Great, and that's probably much needed. How's cash flow been lately?
It's full survival mode at the moment. Like, without the JobKeeper payments, we wouldn't be able to have the doors open.
Yep.
We were looking forward to being able to put on some more staff and have some more revenue through the doors, but I guess we'll just wait and see now, hey?
How's it been? Has there been much communication? Have you had much information coming through? Because this is obviously your livelihood. There are so many people in the exact same position as you. Have you felt like there's been enough clarity there when it comes to a plan, I guess?
The information coming through has been great from industry bodies like the Chapel Street Precinct Association have been amazing. From government, it's been a little bit kind of convoluted. It's been hidden messages and not the right details and not the full details. It would be great to see a roadmap as to when we are able to open. I know it's unpredictable and the virus is unpredictable, and I get it, but for us, even if it was a 4-week roadmap and it could change, or at least this is what you can do when we do decide to lift restrictions, anything that could help guide us would be good, because now we're just uncertain.
Yeah, it's not good, isn't it? And certainly bottomless brunches would be a great thing. I think a lot of us would enjoy, but that won't be happening in the near future, Alicia, by the looks of it.
And then we did a live cross, and then it was all over Channel 9. So off the back of that, there was a few people wanted to do. There was a podcast. There was a local MP, a state MP, and a federal MP all wanted to, because I had said I think he's playing politics with our livelihoods. They all jumped on it, so they all came down to do some filming. One of the state MP was Tim Smith, and he's a good friend of mine, has been for years. And I'm not a member of the Liberal Party. However, I do believe in the framework of the Liberal. I vote that way, and I'm probably conservative, but a little bit entrepreneurial, and I agree with it. And so anyway, he was like, "Oh, can we come down?" I'm like, "Yeah, sweet." So he brings a camera crew down on the I think it was maybe the next day, the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and then films all this content. And it was, I'm here supporting local business, Daniel Andrews hasn't let us open up like the rest of the country.
I'm here at Lucky Penny in Chapel Street with my good friend and owner, Matt Lanigan. Matt, how are you coping with Daniel Andrews refusing to allow 10 patrons into your cafe?
We're getting by, but it's definitely disappointing not being able to have the opportunity to generate thousands more dollars a week of revenue each week, and also put on a couple more staff for the weekend. We're stuck in an uncertain, don't know what direction to go in, no roadmap, no plans of what we can and can't do. Yeah.
As local upper house MP, I'm very worried about businesses like Matt's along Chapel Street. They deserve the best chance to get ahead and to get their staff employed. Daniel Andrews has not given them that chance, unlike every other state in Australia.
He's never worked a day in his life in the real world, that kind of messaging. which was great, except for on the Thursday, he came out and like fully attacked Daniel Andrews, and it blew up, and he was like the most hated man in the state for anyone who was a Labor supporter. So,
and you're like, Tim who?
I'm like, oh yeah, that's my buddy. And then he hadn't released our content yet, and then it got released Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you know, it was fine. I stand by what I said. I stand by having him in there because he is a supporter of, you know, business. He's pro-business. So I stand by everything I said. However, because I was being interviewed with Tim Smith, they targeted me because he was hated right, at the time. And you know how people can get with social media and whatever. Sure. So he released something on Twitter on the Sunday, and I literally within like an hour, I had like hate messages. I had 18 one-star reviews through our Google page, which we were on 4.7. It was all organic. We've never spent any money at all on Google reviews at all over 6 years. And it was like 4.7 stars. And it went down to 4.3. I wake up on the Monday, I've got like all these, my phone's blowing up. And I go, Jesus. And then my business partner, Tavis, he goes, I think you need to do something about this. Like, he wasn't too upset, but he was like, this could get out of hand. And so anyway, I spoke to a friend, and they were like, oh, okay, you know, we can sort it out. I spoke to Tim, and he took down, I said, he's like, what do you want me to do? Take down everything? I said, no, it's cool. Like, I stand by what I said, but maybe the one on Sunday, like, has hit a few nerves. And so he took that down, no problems, without question. And then I reckon probably like 3 hours later, the journalist from the Australian was at the window asking for Matt Lanigan. And
Matt Lanigan, the soundbite guy, which you're now known as amongst Australian media.
That's right. And I was there. I'd just come back in, and I sat down, had coffee, and I overheard it at the window, and I was like, oh, hi. And anyway, he comes upstairs and does this interview. And I was like, oh, she's like, do you mind if we do an interview? I'm like, after all the negativity over the last couple of days, I was kind of skeptical about, you know, an interview in the Australian, which is, you know, probably all the haters that were hating on me hate the Australian. So I was kind of a little bit skeptical of that. But at the same time, she seemed really real, and that she wasn't going to make it political. She was just going to make it more about, you know, small business being attacked by people that have no idea what they're talking about, and just because of association, and how, you know, how it's hard enough out there. So I was like, all right, cool. So we did the interview, and then she said it was going to be the next day, but it wasn't. They held it off. And then on the Friday, it was page 3 of the Australian. My face is there, like 3/4 page photo with this small article, which was, you know, it was literally
typical nightclub guy. Huge photo and small article.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, reminded me of the old clubs guides photos or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then, you know, after that article, it was like it was very, I guess, humbling, the support. They called out some of the people that were leading the charge in the negative reviews and stuff. And literally, I walked into the restaurant at 8:01, the phone rang, and it was some guy, Andrew from Queensland, and he's like, mate, you don't know me, but I've just read the paper and I think it's disgusting what's going on. You have my support. Don't let these guys bring you down. And I swear on my mum's life, within the next hour, I had 5 random phone calls from people, New South Wales, country Victoria, like calling the landline, like, you know, to give me the support. And I was just like, oh, this is unbelievable. And then midday that day, DD on 3AW led her show with a story around how you can't let these guys, these trolls, these, you know, keyboard warriors on social media, they just have, you know, full license to do whatever they want, and it can destroy people's business like this. So she was supporting us as well. She ended up talking from like, you know, for about 35 minutes on her opening of her show, and everyone calling in, they just kept on going, oh, we support you, we support you, we support you. So it gave us like all this great confidence. By the end of the weekend, it had made a segment on the Insiders on Sky.
With Mike Pompeo. James, the Tim Smith story. Tim Smith, the hope of the side. If the Victorian Liberal Party finds a spine, it'll be called Tim Smith, let me tell you that. He's been doing some great stuff. Tell us, James, about how a particular body had leapt on top of him and tried to silence him. You know you're winning, Tim, when the left come after you.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, as I always like to say, if you're not taking flack, you're not over the target row, and he very much is. But so, too, was a small business owner, and he did a video, I think, with Tim Smith last week, and they talked, and this business owner said, I want to reopen, I want to, lift restrictions so that my cafe can operate more. And guess what happened? The activist left decided to target him with 1-star reviews and dragging his business all over all the review sites and, saying nasty things about him and attacking him, because now lockdowns and this perpetual state of economic inactivity has become an ideological touchstone for the left. It is along with climate change, their new first commandment. I mean, I was asking somebody the other day, I said, why is it, do you think, that the left doesn't want to go back to work? And then I realized I'd answered my own question here. The problem is, Rowan, that they don't want anybody else to go back to work either.
Fantastic. Rita, your thoughts?
Say, Rowan, this is just really appalling. This is a small business owner, a little cafe called Lucky Penny in South Yarra.
Go there, people. Go there. Lucky Penny. Go there.
Lucky Penny, South Yarra. All he said was he just wants to do what every other state and territory in this country is doing, which is where cafes are opened up again and you have, between 10 to 20, soon 50 people in New South Wales allowed in. That's all he wanted. Victoria is the only state where cafes, restaurants, pubs, nothing's opened yet. So that's all he said. And you've got groups like Sleeping Giants and other far-left activists trying to crush him by posting bad reviews of his business that he's spent years building up. It is so ugly, and really there should be some remedy for this. There should be.
Well, there should be, and I've said before, I'm certain these people are breaking the law, but that needs to be tested. But I would say to everybody in Victoria, go to Lucky Penny, visit it, go again and go again. So they have to open a second one and then a third one. And they have a whole chain of Lucky Pennies throughout Victoria. And they can even have a special sleeping midgets little cup that they give away for the green yucky ooze that makes you feel sick when you take it. Get revenge on these bastards. That's what I say.
And it was basically our negative reviews. I wrote an email to Google. They had removed 8 out of the 18. And we had 125 positive 5-star reviews from all the support that had happened throughout the week. And so, that was, I don't know, it just happened like that. It was crazy.
It's a crazy few days.
It was great though. Like, as I said, like I stand by everything I said, and everything that we're doing here, it's all real. It's all about the community and I guess delivering the messages from both state and federal government around the seriousness of what we're dealing with and how we all have to play our part. We've been doing that from day one,
Yeah. Well, and I guess, we do a lot of work in the personal branding space, at TTS, and the number one rule is be authentic, find out what your core values are and stick with them, so it sounds like you've definitely done that. Just out of interest, did you get onto Facebook about your Facebook reviews? Did anything happen there? Were you able to get any help from them?
Yeah, Facebook were. I was really surprised. Google didn't even write back. They just started removing the negative ones that they could see that were blatantly fake.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just let the Facebook one slide, because we had so much support anyway. Yeah. I guess instead of spending a lot of energy worrying about it, we just kept on doing what we were doing. The old saying, haters are going to hate, and if you're getting haters, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we're going to get to the latest initiative that you've come out with last week. We're going to get to that shortly, but can you tell us what sort of things you were doing with the business between that period of partial reopening until the recent closure in order to make the most of a bad situation?
Yeah, sure. I guess we were in a good position because we could talk to the people on the street every day, and we could, get a gauge of like whether people were going to rush out and go spend their money, or if they were, broke and jobless, or what if they were worried about the virus. Or so we got a good gauge from a pretty like captive audience on the street. So taking that information, we realized that people wanted to catch up with friends and probably have a drink, whilst they were catching up. And then when we learnt about what the restrictions were going to be and how serious we had to be about managing who came through the venue, for me it was, we used to, on our old menu, we used to have a bottomless brunch package, which was like you pay a set fee and you get a meal and unlimited drinks for 90 minutes. So we just took that concept and turned it into a experience. And so it was like 2-hour windows starting at 11 o'clock in the morning and going through till the last one was at like 5:30 in the afternoon or whatever, and 5 or 6 in the afternoon, depending which day. And so we did, so it was 2 hours. So it gave us 10 minutes to process, 90 minutes of service, and then 20 minutes to sanitize and clean and set up for the next session. So that's what we did. Putting my old events promoter hat on and my marketing hat on, and using the same strategies that we would use for the function space to get clients. We just did that, and the Facebook targeting ads, and and also the local support that we already had, probably piggybacking off some of the media attention that we had as well. And like we literally we had really good buy-in. We were allowed to have 20 people upstairs, 20 people downstairs in the restrictions. So we were kind of blessed that we had 2 spaces. And, for some of those sessions, the 1 o'clock and the 3 o'clock sessions, like they were booked out for 4 or 5 weeks. So we literally, we were in a hole, and we managed to use that money to pay back all of our, debts to function deposits that we had hanging over our head from March, because our whole season had been wiped out. And just literally before I came on here, I paid off our last function deposit, repayment. So it was such an amazing feeling being able to, have that weight off the shoulders, and, and a few people got a little bit angsty and like, oh, where's my money, a couple of times. But in a whole, like everyone was so supportive about, being patient, and, we kept the communication going. We were like, when we have the money, we'll pay you, promise, like, and being able to deliver on that promise and keeping the word, it was like a really good feeling for me and for the events coordinator. So that's what we focused on. And then we kept the grocery store going, but I guess when people got confidence to go out again, the grocery store dropped right off. So in May, we had a record for the grocery store. Like it was, I don't know, I'm trying to work out what it was, but like it was 72 orders or something like that. Like it was great. And it basically was the backbone. And then in June, it was like maybe my mum, my sisters, like, but hey, that's all right. Like whatever, because we had the function, the experiences going on. Yeah. So, so that's, I guess that, we kept the coffee window going and the takeaway window going, and we did the functions, and we made it about having an experience, instead of like, being real strict about, like we were strict on that you had to fill in your details and you had to have your temperature taken and you had to sanitize, but it wasn't like a negative. It was part of the experience. It was like, hey, look, you know, this is what we're going to do. Have some fun doing it. And
yeah,
I think, you know, definitely the skills learned in the nightclub hosting definitely came back out, you know, for a glimpse there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, and that's what it's all about, you know, like just putting your best foot forward and being that bright, bubbly personality that people want to come down and, you know, have their food and drink with, you know. So, but
at the end of the day, we're in hospitality, and I'm you know, front of house service trained. Like that was my whole, you know, that was my thing. So
yeah,
I guess it was just like, all right, back to your roots.
yeah, here we go again.
Yeah.
So just when you think it's safe to reopen the business, the whole thing kicks off again, which I guess was the catalyst for me reaching out to you last week, because I've been watching you, like, you know, online, like sort of twisting and turning throughout this whole crisis. And then when I saw your post last week, I guess I just wanted to, you know, help out if I could. So can you tell us about this latest initiative and what's it all about?
Yeah, sure. So I guess we were knocked flat out by the announcement that we were going back into stage 3 lockdown. And to be honest, I was like the flattest I'd been for the whole time. Like after that announcement, I was like, oh shit, like, sorry, I know we're
that's
not
all
allowed
right.
to swear.
It's fine, I think.
Okay, cool. And like, it got me good. Like I was down, and I was like, kind of, you know, for 24 hours there, I was like, it was so disappointing. And it was also, I guess I kind of believed it wasn't necessary, like, or maybe avoidable. And so it was really hard to take for us. And I always kept on thinking about my staff, and I kept on thinking about, you know, like everyone that will be affected by it. And, you know, we had just started planning for the future, and then we had to, you know, cancel those plans for the future. Like we had a few function bookings, a couple of baby showers, a couple of first birthday, 3-year-old's birthday, you know, and just dealing with telling those people that their event's being cancelled, and the disappointment there, you know, their disappointment feeding off my already state of mind. It was not a great time. So I processed that and spoke to my inner sanctum and kind of got through that quickly.
Did some chanting.
did some meditation, had a nice bath, did some training, all the rest of it. Spoke to my key people, and and came out of it, and it was like, right, we're going to sit here and wallow, or we're going to actually do something. So it was like, well, when we first got the news, we were happy to be a community organization and drop the commercial side of the business. Let's just go back to that. So we had formed a relationship with Foodbank, they do amazing work all around the country, feeding people who basically don't have money or resources to put food on the table. So and we weren't really having much wastage through the grocery store. So I was like, how can we actually give back to the community as well? So I was like, if you donate $5 to Foodbank, it feeds 10 Victorians, right? So I was like, sweet, every grocery store order that comes through, we will donate $5 back. And so we've just switched that back on. And that's our focus now. Our focus is the grocery store is, I think I mentioned earlier, wholesale prices plus 30%. And of that 30%, of that $5, of that order of $40 or more, $5 will go back to Foodbank, and it will feed, 10 Victorians. So for me, in my mind, it's like you can buy groceries from us, support the suppliers, support our people having jobs, and also support Victorians who can't put food on the table. Plus you get restaurant quality food at supermarket prices. It's like the whole circle is there. We offer free delivery to seniors, and we have some amazing volunteers that do those deliveries. When it first started, that's what I was doing. And, you know, I made connections with these elderly people in the community, which was like the highlight of my day during those times. Like, just to see their face when you deliver the groceries and they're like, have a chat with them for, you know, 10, 15 minutes, sometimes more. Like, it literally was that fulfilling. So I was like, I'm this flat, I need that fulfillment back, and I need to give back to be able to get through this. And whether it's 6 weeks or 12 weeks or who knows how long it's going to be, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to give back to the community, because there's not really much more we can do. You know, there is, coronavirus is real, and it is shutting down our economy. And so if there's no way through right now, we'll deal with what we've got. And the best way to do that is to help everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that was part of the post that sort of, you know, made me feel good, you know, inside with what you guys were doing, but also what you said about the takeaway windows. So it's like, you know, you can still come down and have a coffee if you want to chat. You know, our staff, our team are here to, you know, they'll have a good conversation. But you know, if things are really tough, you know, and then you push the whole Beyond Blue, Open Arms, Men's Line, Suicide Callback Service, Lifeline, and Kids Helpline, like. So, and you really were pushing that whole community thing, and it just really resonated. I think it's a great stance.
Yeah, look, I think our number one focus needs to be on people's mental health right now. I've been doing some research and speaking to some psychologists and some people in the field, and it's pretty dire out there at the moment. There's like, I heard Julia Gillard speaking on Q&A last night, and she was talking about the calls to Beyond Blue are up 70% since COVID. Like, you know, that's a stat in itself that everyone should be like, hey, this shit's real. I need to reach out to my community, not just my family and my friends, but my neighbor and the people that make the place that I love living in, and just check if they're all right. And so if we can be a small part of that by having our takeaway window open on the street and giving, you know, the coffees and having that 5-minute conversation each day with someone, and it makes them in a better place, then that's great. Like, that's probably better than any money that we could have coming through the business, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of our clients is Tobin Brothers, and I was chatting to James McLeod, who's the managing director there, and he was telling me about an initiative that they've been doing called Healthy Minds at Home, I think it's called, and they've been doing all this stuff online with, you know, with counsellors, and for all that, you know, all the same reasons. So it's I mean, mental health is just huge at the moment, obviously. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of awareness around it, and I think it's great people aren't afraid to talk about it. Maybe when 10 years or 20 years ago, definitely they weren't. But I think, do people really know what to do if somebody says they aren't well and they aren't okay? You know, do you know what to do? Do you know where they can go to, you know, speak to their GP to get a prescription to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counsellor? Do they know that the number to Lifeline? Do they know the number to this or that? And Men's Health, Kids Health, Kids Helpline, whatever. So I think it's great that there's a lot of awareness. It seems that there's some funding starting to come, but it's not nearly enough. And, you know, the ones that I listed there are like, you know, they're the best kind of support ones, because they know how to deal with it. Like, I'm not qualified to be able to take it beyond, you know, that conversation, but I can definitely guide them to it and be a support person for it. So I think, you know, that's our part as in society. You know, if you were to pick up the phone and be like, hey, Lanis, I'm like not doing well, I'll be like, all right, cool. Like, have you spoken here? Have you done this? Rah, rah. And I think that's going to be, you know, I saw Daniel Andrews speaking this morning about the people being the front line of the battle now. it's an interesting narrative switch for him to be going that direction. But, you know, if you want to talk about what the people should be doing, it should be, you know, supporting each other and making sure, checking in that everyone's okay. Sure, everyone's doing the right thing, but it should be everyone is okay, because people lost jobs, people lost businesses. You've got grandparents who can't see their grandkids, and that's pretty much what they live for.
Yeah.
You know, like it's dire, it's grim, but like, if we can all be positive and we can all kind of play our little part, then it doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, there's a lot of divide in, you know, protests on different issues, and, you know, everyone's at home or on the computer every, you know, more, I think it's like up 70 or 80%, like phone and computer use. Like, so everybody's got something to say, and, you know,
and they're saying it, that's for sure. I've seen it all happen.
And if you don't agree with them, well, then, you know, you can F right off, and like, it's actually
pretty brutal.
It's detrimental to, you know, mental health, like the online stuff. So yeah, look, that's what we're going to do. That's our position. We're going to stay as community leaders and help as many people as we can in whatever way we can, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, so we're almost getting to the end of the chat.
Sure.
But before we finish up, you know, you mentioned Daniel Andrews before. I just wanted to get your take on how you think things have been handled at a government level, and specifically, you know, what do you think has been done well or not so well?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I think at the start, I was praising Daniel Andrews. Like, I'm not one to not acknowledge good leadership, you know, and I thought he was doing a great job initially, and I believe probably 90%, except for the, you know, the far crazies, were probably thinking the same. You know, he was doing a good job and he was leading well. But I remember it was like halfway through the third week, he started playing politics. And I was like, oh no, he started playing politics. And I called it out on a couple of platforms, and I was like, this is the beginning of, you know, the division and I was so disappointed that he started playing politics in a, you know, in a moment like this, which is going to go down in the history books of time of humanity if we don't blow ourselves up. But, you know, this is like, and for him to then go and start playing politics and try, like, my thoughts were he's trying to lead the country from Victoria initially. And then I was like, oh, he kind of came back into line. And then it was just like some crazy decisions, you know. I think the truth will come out around the hotel quarantine stuff. Like, there's some leaked emails that came out in the media today. But it's, you know, it's definitive that he didn't want to take the assistance, and he thought he knew that he could do it better. And it didn't work out that way. And you know, I said it on the news the other night, like, a good leader admits when they're wrong and goes, hey, I fucked up here. Sorry. and I'm going to make amends for this. But instead we had somebody who didn't admit that and hid behind an inquiry that he just put in place, and the whole messaging from the whole party was, we can't answer these questions. And as soon as you don't answer questions in a time where everybody wants answers, like, you're going to lose trust. And so for me, I've lost complete trust in anything that comes out of the government right now. And it's unfortunate because we're sitting on, you know, Chapel Street and being community leaders, and we don't trust the people making the decisions. So it's a really hard spot to be in, but hopefully, you know, hopefully the spin stops, and, you know, it's good to see the state health minister speak, because he speaks without spin. Like, he calls it as it is, and it's great. Like, you know, he should be speaking more and Dan Andrews maybe less, because like whenever he speaks, it kind of gets a bit cringy, you know, like, oh, there's a new narrative this day, you know, today it's the emergency service as the last line of defense and we are the front line. And it's like, mate, like nobody cares about your spin. Like let's just go with, this is what we're dealing with. This is how we're going to do it. You know, we're calling in the military. We don't need the preface. Like we just want the facts. We want the truth. And, you know, I think that, you know, so yeah, I think where he made the mistakes were the cover-ups, and as soon as you start covering your tracks and you get exposed, like it doesn't matter if it's right now or in 2 years or in 4 years, like that's it, you know. And yeah, I think it's, you know, like what you said about personal branding, like you be authentic and you be true, and people buy into that, you know, like
100%.
People can see through bullshit. Like, you know, you're not fooling anyone, right? Yeah. So I think, yeah, I guess that's probably enough on my thoughts on that.
Okay, well, just lastly, like, what do you see, and this is a tricky question, obviously, because we just don't know what's going to happen, but what do you see as the best case scenario for Lucky Penny and the wider Melbourne hospitality scene over the coming weeks and months?
Look, I think that we just have to we have to band together and support each other through. Like, it's not going to be forever, and we are going to find a way to work through it. I was going to say the new normal, but I really hate that saying, because because it's a load of shit, right? Yeah. It's like, we're doing what we're doing. Like, drop that, please. But if we all come together, we work with the restrictions that we've got at the time, and, you know, we work together to come back, I think there's going to be, you know, a massive fallout in business. Unfortunately, there's going to be businesses that shut their doors and never reopen because it's just going to be too hard to come back. I think there's going to be a massive drop in commercial tenancies. I think that the whole CBD office space and is going to be, you know, I was speaking to director at Knight Frank, and he reckons it's going to be 50%, you know, come back by 50%, which is like, you know, dire for big business and small business. And, you know, so I think that there's going to be a lot of that, but I think there's also going to be a lot of opportunity for people who stay positive and get through the tough time. And, you know, I think that if you have colleagues in the industry, whatever it is, hospitality or anything else, you know, band together right now. You know, you may be competitors down the track, but right now we've got to work together to get through it. You know, best thing for hospitality would be that the government find a way to be comfortable to help them reopen, whatever that is, back to the last restrictions that we had or a variation of that. But you gotta not even about getting money through the door, but you got to get people back into work, because having them locked up is back to the mental health thing, right? Yeah. And there's so many people in the supply chain of a hospitality business. There's so many moving parts. There's so many suppliers, especially if you're a restaurant with food. You know, you've got so many different suppliers. You've got the landlords. You've got like the utilities. You've got everyone needing that money. Like, they've all got businesses as well. So, you know, I think it's going to be like they need to find a way, even if, like, we're not going to be able to eradicate COVID-19, right? It's here until there's a cure or there's a vaccine. It's simple. It's like anything. and we have to learn how to manage it. You know, that's the message that comes out of WHO. That's the message that comes out of all the health ministers. Like, we have to live with it. Like, there's no way, like, even New Zealand, there's been a few more cases over there. Like, you know, they got it to zero and now it's come back. So that you gotta, and if you don't keep the economy moving, then, you know, what's the point? Like, you know, like what, everyone's going to be dependent on the government forever. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good society at all.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess the bottom line in all of that is, if you've got the, you know, once the venues do reopen, or even, you know, for the venues that are still open, if you've got the money, go out and support your local hospitality businesses.
Absolutely. I think the support local movement is the key to the rebound. You know, get off the couch, walk down the street, pick up your food, and automatically there's a 30% extra into the business instead of using Uber Eats. Like, that one small moment of, it's 10 minutes out of your life, and what are you doing now anyway, right? If it's raining, take an umbrella. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I've been doing my bit for WA hospitality businesses. I've been trying to give as much money to all of them as often as I possibly can.
You're a good man, Al.
But I've always done that.
You have.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to, you know, us being able to have a beer again sometime when you can actually enter Victoria.
Yeah. I think I can get in. I just can't get back over here. That's the problem.
Yeah, look, there's not a lot to come here for right now anyway.
I'll just wait.
Yeah. Wait until we can have an experience.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Well, Lanis, mate, absolute pleasure. And I just wish you and the rest of the team down there at Lucky Penny all the best.
Thanks, Al. Really appreciate your support, and thanks for letting me tell my story today. That's great.
No worries. All right. All the best.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Take care. Ciao.